Welcome to Golden Blue, everybody, home of the college football fan. And don't forget about the checklist. Hat check, sunglasses check, Pepsi check, notes check, sources check, and thick skin is a check. And don't forget to sing gear to represent your team and yourself in my background. Send it to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina, 29657, and get yourself a shout out. On to the next video. Hey, you already know what time it is, so might as well sit down, brace yourself, and buckle up because you are entering the speculation zone. I will admit, Golden Blue Dude has turned into, as the Pac-12 turns, the daily soap opera of the Pac-12. I can't help it. This thing is so interesting and it's taken so many twists and turns that I have to keep up with it. So what I wanted to do on this particular video is go through every team that's in the Pac-12 and give you the chances that I think they have of actually bolting for the Big 12 sooner rather than later. There's a lot of factors that go with this. Number one is the bad TV deal that the Pac-12 is looking at. We're looking at $22 million per team per year for this new TV deal. The second thing is teams either signing or not signing the grant of rights. That's a big deal. So far, nobody's signed any type of grant of rights. Emergency meetings going on. We know that Colorado is having one right now as I speak. The Pac-12 as a conference is supposed to have a meeting as well this week to talk about the new TV media deal during the basketball tournament. So this is a very important week for the Pac-12. Maybe the most important week in the history of the Pac-12 because it could determine if the Pac-12 continues to exist or starts to dissolve. In case you're wondering, these are the teams that we don't have represented for the mini helmets. As you can see, we actually have quite a few big brands that's not represented here at Golden Blue Dude. I do know that Nevada and Cincinnati are on their way as far as mini helmet representation. So get your team represented here on Golden Blue Dude. First up, we'll start at the bottom. Stanford and Cal. I'm going to say 0%. I don't think there's any way that Stanford and Cal ever join the Big 12. So I would say not a chance. Even if the Big Ten doesn't want Stanford and Cal at all, ever, they would either go independent or drop sports altogether before they ever join the Big 12. Now, I want to bring in a Get It Gang video comment idea to talk about this particular situation. This is from Hero75. He says, if Oregon and Washington get $40 million from Big Ten, could Cal and Stanford get even less? Or would they get the same if they join the Big Ten? So this is based on, do they have a shot of joining the Big Ten? I think they do. We're hearing the offer from the Big Ten to Oregon and Washington is a reduced revenue share somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 million per team per year, which is still more than anything the Pac-12 could offer them, even with unequal revenue share. But for Stanford and Cal, their only destination, if they were to leave the Pac-12, would be the Big Ten. So maybe they would have to join them for like $20 million per team per year, which they would take that over even $30 million per team per year in the Big 12 just because it's an academics conference. But if the Big Ten wasn't interested in Stanford and Cal, they would either drop sports or go independent. No chance they ever join the Big 12. The next two teams, Washington and Oregon. I only give them like a 10% chance of ever joining the Big 12. The reason is both want to be in the Big 10. Rumors about a reduced revenue share invite are running rampant right now, and the number that I'm hearing is $40 million per year for both Oregon and Washington. And like I've stated, that's still more than anything the Pac-12 could offer them, even with unequal revenue share. The most that I think the Pac-12 could offer these two teams, even with unequal revenue share, $30 million per team per year. That's still a solid $10 million per team per year less, and that's with a reduced revenue share. But the only way they join the Big 12 is as a stepping stone from impending Pac-12 doom. If the Big 10 isn't ready for them yet, meaning the Big 10 will take them later on, but right now they won't take them, and the Pac-12 is about to dissolve, so they use the Big 12 as a stepping stone. That is the only way that I see Oregon and Washington ever joining the Big 12. And from what I heard, Brett Yormark offered them an invite with an out clause for the Big 10. That way, if the Big 10 does come a calling, there would be no penalty if they did decide to join the Big 12 and then jump to the Big 10. So Brett Yormark does want Washington and Oregon in the Big 12, even if it's just for a short amount of time. The next two teams, Washington and Oregon State. I give them about a 30% shot of joining the Big 12. Both teams have been very, very quiet, but they would be in danger of teams leaving them behind if other teams jump and they do nothing. So I do think that there is a decent shot of them joining the Big 12. We're just not hearing any news out of Corvallis or Pullman, Washington right now. They're being very quiet. But like I've stated in previous videos, those quiet teams, you have to watch out for those quiet teams. Usually those quiet teams are the teams that do end up making moves. And remember, Brett Yormark does want that Pacific time zone. Now, if Brett Yormark grabs Arizona State, technically during the regular season of college football, he would be getting the Pacific time zone because the state of Arizona doesn't have daylight savings time, so they are in Pacific time zone up until November. So if they grab Arizona and Arizona State, you are grabbing that Pacific time zone for the regular season of college football. But if you take a step beyond that and grab Washington State and Oregon State, then you have the Pacific time zone no matter what. So I do think that there's a decent shot of the Big 12 picking up Washington State and Oregon State. The next team I want to talk about is Utah. I give Utah a 50-50 shot, 50%. Most everybody is on board with the jump to the Big 12 as it relates to Utah, except for the university president himself. That is a big hurdle. You have to convince him, and the Board of Regents for that matter, I don't know how they feel on the situation, that it is in the best interest for Utah to jump to the Big 12 before the Pac-12 gets out of control desperate. You don't want to make a decision out of necessity. You want to make it look like that you made a proactive decision instead of reactive decision. Utah likes the Pac-12. They really don't want to leave the Pac-12. But if it looks like the Pac-12 is destined to dissolve, then you need to make the decision right now to jump to the Big 12 instead of waiting till the Pac-12 actually starts to implode. It would just be a better look on Utah if they did it sooner rather than later. But still, I give them a 50-50 shot right now because most people associated with Utah do want to jump to the Big 12 right now, and maybe they can talk him into making that decision. Especially if these other teams start jumping. That will increase the gravity of the situation. The next team I want to talk about is Colorado. I give Colorado a 75% chance of jumping to the Big 12. Remember, Colorado is having an emergency meeting today right now as I speak. Colorado has voiced great displeasure with the Pac-12 TV deal, both in price and the heavy streaming aspect. I'm going to bring another Get It Gang comment into this situation. I read this on a different video, but I want to read it for this video as well because I think it applies to this situation. This was from Immaculate. Colorado didn't hire Deion Sanders to have him and his team mostly streamed. Coach Prime didn't pick Colorado for this either. If Colorado wants to keep him, they need to leave the Pac-12. My question would be, is there really anything to the rumor about Brett Yormark potentially giving some clauses to some of these schools that there would be no penalty if they join the Big Ten later? I wonder if Colorado would get that clause. If so, I could see that dislodging them to the Big 12 for now. If that's what it takes for Brett Yormark to get Colorado into the Big 12, then yes, I think he would give Colorado that clause, and he would probably be confident that that clause would probably never get used because he's thinking that the Big Ten isn't interested in Colorado. But for argument's sake, he gives them the clause. That way, if there is a chance, they can leave Big 12 for the Big 10 and there's no penalty. So yes, I think there's a chance that Colorado could also have that clause. Finally, the last two teams, Arizona and Arizona State, I give them an 80% chance of joining the Big 12. No, I can't give them 100% because nothing is certain until it actually happens. But 80%, that's pretty substantial. Both of these universities have criticized the Pac-12 openly. There is state legislation in place that requires both to be in the same conference. So wherever Arizona goes, Arizona State must go. And wherever Arizona State goes, Arizona goes as well. So I give both of these teams 80%. I think both of these teams do make the jump to the Big 12 together. And who knows, Brett Yormark might have given him the same clause as far as, hey, if you leave to join the Big 10, we won't penalize you. Because he would have a high degree of confidence that the Big 10 wouldn't even come calling for Arizona and Arizona State. But to appease them, just in case, he probably is giving them that open clause as well. So y'all know in the comments section, what do you think about my percentages of each Pac-12 team possibly joining the Big 12? If you disagree with these percentages, where would you have these percentages and why? That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.